DBMS Important Questions Part 1. Question number 4. List the different types of database users. Explain in detail. Or the question can be asked like, what are the responsibilities of database administrator, that is DBE? In question number 3, we have discussed the overall system architecture along with the essential components and their use. There we said like we'll be discussing in the next question about the different types of users in the database system. The different database users are mainly of four types. The first one, database administrator, sophisticated users, application programmers, and fourth one, Nav users. So let's try to understand each of the type of users and their responsibilities in detail. The first and foremost database user is the data administrator. So data administrator is one who can be called as the heart of the database management system. So what are his responsibilities? So he can create a new account ID and password for the user if he needs an access to the database. That means he will be looking into the authentication process. Second is he would be providing the security to the database. That means he's responsible for the security conditions because I already said he's the one who is going to provide authorization to the user by creating the account ID and password. The next one is he can monitor the recovery and backup and provide the technical supports. And next point is this database administrator is otherwise called as system or super user of the account. Like I said, he is said to be the heart of the different types of users in the database system. And he is also responsible for looking into the repairs of if the damage is caused to any of the failures, that it can be a hardware failure or software failure. The first one, he looks into the authentication process because he creates username and password. And then he also monitors into the recovery and backup conditions and also provides some technical support. And he also looks into the technical failures which happens due to the hardware and software conditions, that is failures or crashes. In turn, I can see database administrator is the one who coordinates all the activities of the database system, and he is the one who is having a good understanding of the entire database information. That is a database, for example, that is designed for an enterprise. So let me pull out all the duties of the database administrator in short. The first one, he looks into the schema definition, that is, he is responsible for the design of the schema. He looks into storage structure and access method definition. And third one, schema and physical organization modification is the one that is being taken care by the database administrator, granting authority to the access of the database, that is like username and password, and specifying the integrity constraints. So different types of constraints which are imposed at the schema level that also been planned by the database administrator. And he also looks into monitoring the performance and responding to the changes in the requirements according to the client's ideas. So if the question is about explain the responsibilities of the database administrator or DBA, you need to explain all these points in the answer. So next one is Nav users, or it can also be called as parametric end users. So name itself says end users. That means it's a common man kind of person who is going to access the database or access the data from the database. Or I can say he's the one who don't have any knowledge about the database management system, but he always or frequently be in touch with the database because it's been a part of their day-to-day life. For example, let's speak about the railway ticket booking that we do in IRCTC website. So we accessing the data through IRCTC website for ticket booking a ticket for in railways. So we act like Nav users. So we don't have any knowledge about DBMS, but still we'll be using an application through which I'm booking the railway ticket. So next example can be the clerks in any bank. They also comes into the category of Nav users because they too don't have any knowledge about database management system. Still, they perform some operations or task for the people who come to them in a bank. So next is a system analyst. System analyst is a user who analyzes the requirement of the parametric end users or the nave users about whom just we spoke about. That means this fellow will be looking into or analyzes the requirements of a common man who has no knowledge about the database management system. So he'll be checking whether all the requirements of this persons are satisfied or not in the complete database design. Next comes the sophisticated users. So these sophisticated users can be the engineers, scientists, or business analysts. That means they develop their own applications. So they do not rely on the database that is designed for a common man or a naive user. So they develop their own applications according to their own requirement. So I can say like they don't write the program code, complete program code, but they do depend on some of the SQL queries through which they can directly come in contact with the database system that through the query processor. So that's what it says. Sophisticated users can be engineers, scientists, business analysts who are familiar with the database. That means they have knowledge about the database. But the thing is, they are not going to write the program code, but they are going to interact with the database through some SQL queries directly through the query processor. So next type of database users are the application programmers. So these application programmers, they are again acting like a backend programmers. So here, these people have enough knowledge about the programming and they are the computer professionals or else I can say. So what is that they're exactly doing? They are involved in designing an application page or an application through which they'll be accessing the data from the database. Like I said, the naive users are someone who don't have any knowledge, but still they'll be accessing the data from the database. So how is it done? It is done through the application that is being designed by these people, that is the computer professionals. They'll make everything ready in the form of an application through which a common man gets into a website or an application page and access the data whatever he wants in just form of a buttons. So these programs can be written in the programming languages like Visual Basic, Developer, C, Fortran, .NET, so PHP, etc., etc. So there are different tools or the programming languages that are ready-made available through which the computer professionals would be using the comfortable tool to design the application page for a particular database design. So there's one more user that is database designer, which is not mentioned in the overall system architecture. But still, let's try to understand what are the responsibilities of this particular database designer. The database designer actually works along with the database admin in designing the basic schema structure. So the idea of the schema structure will be framed by the data admin, whereas the implementation of the schema, or I can say the blueprint and views of the tables, etc., is being taken care by the database designer according to the database administrator's idea. So how do this administrator get the idea? It's from the client end. He'll be interacting thoroughly with the client and gets all the desired requirements of the client and then frames a schema which is being implemented by the database designer. But if the question is about the different types of user, it's enough to explain about the database administrator and then going to the naive user and then about the system analyst, sophisticated users, and application program. So if we come back to the overall system architecture, Nav users use the application interfaces designed by the application programmer, and through this interface they'll be in contact with the database through the application program object code. So they are not exactly going to write the code. It's all the features that are already ready-made available in the application designed by the application programmers. And second case, application programmers write the code using any of the programs like how we have seen C, C++, COBOL, Java, .NET, etc. Using those programming languages, they would be writing or implementing an application, and through which they'll be in contact with the compiler. Next is the sophisticated users. They also use some query tools like how I said SQL. They use this kind of tools and comes in interaction with the query processor. And last one, the data administrator. So uses again the data administration tools and comes in contact with the query processor. And you know what the query processor is, which was explained in the previous video. Hope the concept is clear. Thank you very much.